Tonight on the fifth chapter, the Lions have a new coach and he vows to snack on the kneecaps of his opponents. So did Dan Campbell win his first press conference, or was he just playing crazy? Mobile sports betting in Michigan is almost here, with bettors finally able to wager on games from home. Dennis and Brian on its impact on sports fans in the mitten and how you can bet on sports for free. And Conor McGregor returns to the octagon in just 2 days. Will he take down Dustin Poirier, and could his next opponent be Khabib Nurmagomedov? Join the conversation by commenting live on YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch. This is the fifth chapter with Dennis Fithian and Brian Chapman.
He represents the mitten by way of Penn State. When Chapman gets to talking sports, the people can't wait. He represents the mitten. Be a true EMU, but cut Dennis in the fall and his veins bleeding blue. They got respect around the state when that light turns red. So don't sleep on these dudes. Just invite your friends to cut your nap short and tip your cap for and sit back for the fifth chapter. Brian Chapman, Dennis Fithian. When they open their mouths, they spit in the facts, bro. This ain't even optional, man. You just have to tune into YouTube to watch the broadcast, or download it to your phone to peep the podcast. They mix laughter, they get after. It's all captured in the fifth chapter.
That's right. Welcome to the fifth chapter. I am Brian Chapman. He is Dennis Fithian. And behind me, nobody can see it because it's in another room, but I've got my grill going. I'm ready to barbecue some kneecaps.
Yeah, hey, the dude was out there, didn't even have his mullet, man, and he was already like the Big Lebowski.
Yeah, he's going to be quite the character for same old Lions fans over the next year plus, maybe up to 6 years, who knows, but we all know Lions coaches never last 6 years. Definitely want to thank everybody for tuning into episode 72. We've got 5 more fantastic chapters for you, and it's going to be a great show for all who are tuning in via YouTube, Facebook Live, and Twitch. Want to thank all those who are doing so. Also want to thank those who are listening to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and participate in each show by sending in your feedback via Facebook Live and via YouTube. Dennis will be going through and reading some of your comments throughout the course of today's show. Let's take a look at today's book. In the second chapter, you can see that mobile sports betting is coming to Michigan finally tomorrow at noon. So we are 16 and a half hours away from being able to bet on your phone or maybe your computer. In the third chapter, we've got the potential for a State Farm Super Bowl if the favorites win. It could be the Patrick Price versus the Rodgers rate, but can the Bills or the Buccaneers prevent a potential State Farm Super Bowl? In the fourth chapter, UFC 257 is just 2 days away, with Conor McGregor returning to the octagon and Khabib Nurmagomedov possibly interested in returning if he sees a great performance out of McGregor or somebody else. Dana White on what he had to say about that. And then in the fifth chapter, we've got the major wager. We'll tell you what you can bet on. And once again, beginning tomorrow at noon, you won't even have to go all the way down to downtown Detroit to bet. You can bet right here on your phone. Wow.
One of the two of us is really excited about that.
Yeah, and then that's despite the fact that I live a heck of a lot closer to downtown Detroit, where I can just zip down the lodge with about 15 exits and place a bet whenever I want to. But it's so much easier. Well, we'll get into that in the second chapter. But Dennis, let's start off with the first chapter, and that takes us to the same old Lions. And with the same old Lions, they finally have introduced their brand new head coach. And it's a guy that we knew about and we talked about on Tuesday, and that's Dan Campbell. And, you know, when you have an introductory press conference, you want to kind of get a feel for who the guy is, particularly if he hadn't done a whole lot of speaking in the past. And Dan Campbell, as an assistant head coach for the Saints, he wasn't familiar to us. We know that he played for the Lions, but he wasn't a star for the Lions. We didn't know what he was about. We just heard reports about him and that guys would run through a wall for him. And I think we got a flavor of what people were talking about, because his first press conference was one for the ages. And if you're wondering about why we were discussing barbecuing kneecaps at the start of the show, here is the one clip that's been going viral today ever since that press conference started.
All right, so let me go back. Let me start here again. I wanted this job bad because I felt like I knew this community. I played here. All right, here's what I know. Just as an overall philosophy, you're going to say, well, what's this team going to be? What's it not going to be? Here's what I know. All right, I know that Detroit's made up of great people, some really good people. All right, this community is strong. This place has been kicked, it's been battered, it's been bruised, and I can sit up here and give you coach speak all day long. I can give you, hey, we're going to win this many games. I can't. None of that matters, and you guys don't want to hear it anyway. You've had enough of that shit. So excuse my language. All right. Here's what I do know, is that this team is going to take on the identity of this city. All right, and the city's been down, and it found a way to get up. All right, it's found a way to overcome adversity. All right, and so this team's going to be built on, we're going to kick you in the teeth. All right, and when you punch us back, we're going to smile at you. And when you knock us down, we're going to get up. And on the way up, we're going to bite a kneecap off. All right, and we're going to stand up. And then it's going to take 2 more shots to knock us down. All right, and on the way up, we're going to take your other kneecap, and we're going to get up. And then it's going to take 3 shots to get us down. And when we do, we're going to take another hunk out of you. Before long, we're going to be the last one standing. All right, that's going to be the mentality. All right, and we're going to learn that any loss that we take, we're going to make sure we feel the full pain of it and not go numb to it and learn from it and not to want to taste it again. All right, we're going to be competitive every game. I can't sit up here and guarantee wins and losses, and I just can't do it. But I'll guarantee you this, man, these guys are going to fight, and they're going to scratch and claw, and they're going to be something this city's proud of because they're going to take on the identity of this city.
So starts off the press conference by admitting that he is pretty much a cannibal, but you can also see right there why folks would say that they would run through a wall for Dan Campbell. Additionally, in his press conference, we know that you, Dennis, love to talk about the cronyism and the kissing of the ass of the forwards, and there is definitely some of that in this press conference from Dan Campbell. Here is an example of that.
You want to change the culture of a team, it gets thrown around, it starts at the top. Sheila Hamp, all right, that's where it starts. I was sold within 10 minutes of my interview with her. She is a genuine soul. She wants to win. She is heartfelt. She is humble. And all I want to do is give her success. That's what I want to do. I want her to succeed, and I don't want to let her down. No different than any of them here.
So I think we all know you have to kind of kiss the rings, and that's certainly what he took the opportunity to do there. And then one other clip we want to play for you from this introductory press conference, and actually we have a couple more we'll play a little bit later. We talked about this a little bit on Tuesday, where he is not labeled as a guy or known as a guy who is all that steeped into the X's and O's compared to other coaches. And here was his response, unprompted, to that.
Somebody's going to get into this, and I know this is going to be the next question. All right, you want to know about X's and O's and what's my philosophy. Here's my philosophy on offense and defense for that matter. We're going to run a system that puts our best on your worst. That's what we're going to do, because that's what we did in New Orleans. So we're going to find a way to put our guys in one-on-one matchups, whether it's run or pass. All right. I want to find, if you're telling me that our left tackle is better than their right end and we can run outside zone all day, we're going to run outside zone as long as we can cut off the backside. Why not? I mean, if we can exploit a weakness, we're going to do it. If you tell me that because of that we need to run it 10 times in a row to open the game so we can throw it, guess what? We're going to run it 10 times. If you tell me that our ex-receiver cannot be stopped and they're not rolling to him at all, and we can throw Harveys all day or hitches or smokes and let him run, then we're going to do it. And you tell me we're going to do it 10 times because they're just not taking it away. They're not doubling. They're not rolling to cover 2. Then we'll do it. And if that means that's going to open up the run game, we'll do it. They get into cover 2, then we'll start running it. So I'm into exploiting weaknesses with our strengths. And that more importantly is what I believe in more than, hey.
So I guess trying to preempt the question that was going to be obviously coming to him about the X's and O's and not being steeped into it. And you can obviously make your own assessment as to whether or not that's a fair response. But Dan Campbell, certainly not boring in his introductory press conference. Dennis, what did you think about those comments, including the cannibalistic comment? And did you think that he won his introductory press conference for the fans?
Yeah, I think Lion fans would come away like just looking on social media, like if there was one common thing that was said the most by Lion fans there, that they're ready to run through a wall for Coach Campbell. Man, the guy fires you up, and he was relatable in a lot of ways. The part about biting kneecaps and then getting back and biting the other one there, I'd never really heard that. Anybody talk like that. When it's coming down to football, but you get it, man. Get tough, and they're going to keep coming after you. I like how he talked about building the team and the mold of the city. That stuff went over pretty well. And really, when he was talking about the X's and O's and what he's looking for here, whoever his OC's going to be ultimately is going to be a guy that just needs to sit down and say, look, I'm not running a West Coast. I'm not looking to run the ball or necessarily throw the ball. I'm looking to create an advantage for the offense. I'm looking to get somebody out there where – when we have an advantage, we're able to go out there in this scheme, and we're able to attack that way. And if they say that, I mean, he said it once, he said it a few times, that creating an advantage, whether it's going to be on defense, trying to make the offense play left-handed, or offensively looking to get the ball to a player where you could put him in a position to succeed. You need a quarterback to be able to do that, but that's what you'd expect from the OC. But yeah, he had a way of talking where it's just like, hey, man, I get it. Like, look, I'm not blowing you away with any, inside football talk and all this. I'm just a dude. I'm just a dude up here talking ball. And I think a lot of people related to that. And, it's fine. Like, I'm not criticizing him. I thought he did it. Like, I thought he act like he's some kind of scientist up there and saying things that you can't understand. He seemed to be kind of lunch pail head coach. Like, let's get after this. Let's go out there, work hard. He said repeatedly, is the one thing that I was cringing a few times though is everything starts at the top. It's all about it starts at the top, and then hey, Sheila and Rod, it was like a little cringeworthy there, because I think Sheila's been part of the problem with her family the entire time, and Wood's an example of that. But maybe he can overcome that if he makes some good hires here and with his offensive coordinator. And the whole thing about how he's working now with Brad Holmes, it's like these guys, whether or not, I mean, Wood went out of his way today, like when he was talking about the general manager resumes, and when they actually met with them, that all of the guys that they had asked him to go out there and say, who they thought would be their choices, their top choices for head coach. And they kept saying that these names kept popping up, and Campbell's popping up. He stopped short of saying, yeah, Holmes was the guy. This was his guy. He picked him. He didn't say that, but he did say that he was at the top of his list, and that or he was on some kind of list that he put down when he said coaches that he thought that he could work with. So I don't know, a little bit of halfway there, because it seemed like it was an arranged marriage where Holmes got hired one day and then the next day, we find out it was going to be Dan Campbell. So, yeah. It didn't seem like maybe they were doing a little cover in their ass there of, people, because that was really the number one thing out of that. It's like, whose show is this? And it's still, when you've got the salary cap guy, you've got Wood up there with more power. I can see if you're a skeptical Lion fan, you know what? You should be a skeptical Lion fan looking at that thing. And, as much as you're like, yeah, man, this guy's a lunch pail, and let's see what our new GM is going to be. You still look at it and you think, wow, are the Fords really getting this right when we know their big issue? I'm skeptical about that, but, it's not like you don't hope that the head coach and general manager, that they can't go out there and succeed. You hope that, but you still kind of look at it like, you're still dealing with Wood here.
Yeah, that Rod Wood was certainly a major factor. At the start of the press conference, it was Sheila Ford and Rod Wood who are answering questions. But and I'll get to them in just a second. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun to listen to his press conferences and watch his press conferences for the next year, and if he lasts longer than that, unlike Matt Patricia, because Matt Patricia would just sit in front of the media and say a whole bunch of words, and really there wasn't much depth behind it, there wasn't much meaning behind it. There was a heck of a lot of coach speak behind whatever Matt Patricia said. I really liked, and I think a lot of Lions fans liked, that Dan Campbell kept it real. They liked that he cursed. They liked that he cried, and he was emotional during this. They liked that he was not giving coach speak, and he tried to go into some depth. He kind of showed that he related to the fan base by saying, I know what you've gone through. And obviously, he was a 2008 Detroit Lion, so he knows how bad things have been. In terms of the whole biting off kneecaps. I mean, first of all, a kneecap is a weird part of the body to go after. Like I've never been into cannibalism, and I've never been a predatory animal. But if I was like a tiger or a polar bear and I saw a human walking around and I was going to try to take it down, I wouldn't say, let me go for the kneecap. I might go for the calf. I might go for the thigh to like rip out a chunk of meat. I might go for the head. But I'm not thinking, let me go rip out a kneecap so that his knee will be less stable when he's trying to run away. So just as an aside, that's kind of a weird part of the body to go after. And then, to say, then we're going to go after the other kneecap, and then we're going to take another chunk out of it. It was entertaining, and it was weird, but it was entertaining, and I liked that as opposed to Matt Patricia, who's boring, most coaches who are boring, and certainly you like that over Bill Belichick. I think most fans from their coach, not only do they want wins, but when they're speaking to the dishonest media, they want a guy like Dan Campbell or a Mike Tomlin as opposed to a Patricia. So I think that he definitely won the press conference. I'm still giving the higher a C- because of some of the things we talked about on Tuesday, with him not being steeped in the X's and O's and not blowing away the Dolphins when he had the opportunity to, going 5-7 down the stretch. But winning the press conference, yeah, I'll say that he did that. When it comes to that bite the kneecap off comment, the thing that I thought of first, outside of cannibalism, was the defense that the same old Lions had with Ndamukong Suh, because that was a team where if you got after them, they would be the type that would go after. They wouldn't go after a kneecap, but they would take a cheap shot after the whistle. They were dirty. They were basically doing what Dan Campbell said, in that, they weren't going to go down without a fight. It's going to take us 2 or 3 more shots to knock us down, but on our way back up, we're going to take out your other kneecap. And I was thinking of Ndamukong Suh, stomping on a quarterback, a linebacker grabbing a face mask and throwing somebody out of bounds, taking a shot at somebody, shoving somebody when they're already out of bounds, being undisciplined. But when the Lions did that, while it was dirty and it frustrated some of the fans, I think it instilled some fear into the opponent. And in 2014, the Lions were number 3 in the NFL in total defense. So obviously you don't want everybody getting a whole bunch of penalties. But if Jelani Tavai could play with a little more ferocity, a little more rip your kneecap out of him, then perhaps he wouldn't be, a D- level player. Maybe he could be a C+ player. So I liked that part of the press conference. We'll see if that will translate into their play on the field, but I think the Lions defense this past year certainly could be labeled as a bunch of softies and not one that resembled the dirty, in-your-face, and quality defense of 2014.
No, I think this year's Lions team would just stay down on the mat. They weren't getting up and biting even at at your toes. They're just laying there and saying meow, or they're toothless or anything else. That kind of stuff is, you're right. It's different. It's entertaining. It can be, I saw a national columnist already what's that? You can't say things like that. But, it reminds me mobsters, break their kneecaps or something like that.
Yep.
But the real thing is, as a head coach, if you could command a room, it's still, when you're getting, even though these guys, this is the NFL, really, when you can get out there, if you could pull the most out of the players and you can get them to believe in you, that's what it comes down to. And he seems like he could have that particular part where he can get up in front of everybody and he can command the room and he can get them all rolling in the same direction. He can have success that way. Now, the one thing we know about Matt Patricia is, he had his idea of how to command a room. and was in there calling out Darius Slay about his junk, and Darius Slay's like, what the this guy, he didn't connect. The bottom line, however that was, he didn't connect with his players. If Dan Campbell is able to connect with the players, obviously he was able to go out there and connect with fans listening to him. I thought he did a pretty good job there, like pretty long-winded and all those things, but I'm not jumping on somebody that wants to get up there and talk. And even though he was going on and on and on, about some certain things and would go here and then go over there and didn't really answer the question, but then would go back. I like how he addressed the reporters by most everybody by name.
Yeah.
And those are nice touches when you get up there and it's just an introductory news conference. So yeah, but and I know it even says the dude on his nameplate there.
Yeah.
At his office, there's no doubt that he looks like
he wants to be a player's coach.
He looks like Jeff Bridges.
You could say that as well. Now getting to the first two individuals that we heard from at the press conference, it was Sheila Ford and Rod Wood. And I what was interesting to me was not necessarily what Wood and what Sheila Ford said. It was more about not only was Dan Campbell so complimentary of them as we played in one of the earlier clips, but if I'm a Lions fan and I'm thinking about who else is going to be at that press conference besides the new head coach, I want to hear Sheila Ford because she's the owner. I want to hear Chris Spielman, but I don't want to hear Rod Wood. Like, Rod Wood hired Chris Spielman to have more of a football impact in the front office. Chris Spielman is not just a football guy, he's a Lions legend. And instead of hearing from the Lions legend, we got the accountant. Like, I know that from an X's and O's standpoint, Sheila Ford's not going to offer much because she didn't play or anything like that, but she owns the team and she's an important voice to hear from. But Rod Wood, I get that he's the boss of Chris Spielman, but the boss doesn't have as much expertise as the underling Chris Spielman. Like, Rod Wood was talking about, I called up GM Mickey Loomis of the Saints and we had a conversation about Dan Campbell and he was praising him. That's fine, but I would rather have Chris Spielman have that conversation. Maybe if it's a Zoom call and Wood wants to chime in at the end and with a couple of questions that maybe he thought Spielman overlooked, that's fine. But I it almost seemed as I was watching that like Chris Spielman might have been some sort of puppet. I want to hear Spielman, not Wood.
Yeah, me too. I think we can go over and over this. Like, it's the one thing. What's baffling over the last month or two that we had learned is that the previous hire was it came down to a damn near 100-year-old woman and a guy who professed that he knew absolutely nothing about football. These were the two guys that rolled out and hired, or the two people, I should say, Martha Ford. That went out there and hired the previous regime. It's crazy, that would happen. Well, it's clear that, Rod Wood, like the whole thing, like they were talking about, and it was mentioned a bunch of times again today, culture, Sheila Hamp and Rod Wood, it's like, yeah, culture. Wait, no, we're talking about you two specifically. It doesn't matter. Like, they're going to still be up there and, Wood presents himself fine if you didn't really know, like, his background. Like,
correct.
You'd say, hey, this guy sounds like he knows what he's talking about. But, he's up there. It's kind of like when they, they're arranging, the pecking order of the calls. I think they like that with Zoom. It's like, I don't need to hear any more questions from Tim, Twentyman.
Yeah, the first two questions are always from Tim Twentyman and Mike O'Hara, who, if you don't know, write for DetroitLions.com.
Yeah, well, Harris, he's a professional and everything. I don't have too much against Twentyman, but it's like every single time, it's like, do I really have to hear from Tim Twentyman? But I guess we do.
Well,
And
it's kind of like if you go to like a Pistons game and you're at those post-game press conferences, who's asking the first question? It's going to be Johnny Kane or whoever is the FSD guy, FSD reporter, because those questions tend to be more softball.
True.
And then they hope I'm not there.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. I mean, that's just an aside there.
Yeah.
That's just something like you notice there. But, Campbell, the higher overall, I don't know how you could give it more than a C, but I do think you watch today and you give it an A. He was.
If you're a fan, you watched today, and I could understand you boosting it up because he won the press conference.
Yeah. But just talking about the press conference, he gets an A. Talking about the overall higher, a C. Let's get to some of the feedback out of it. What do you think?
Well, before we get to some of the feedback, there is one other big question that I think a lot of Lions fans are wondering about, and that was how Matt Campbell or Dan Campbell what Dan Campbell was thinking about the highest paid player on the team, Matt Stafford. And here was his response to a question about the Stafford issue.
So that's another one we're going to talk about. I need to sit down with Brad. I mean, we've had discussions, but here's what I'd say about Matthew is, man, he's a stud. All right, he's a stud. He is one of the toughest quarterbacks you'll ever see. He's extremely talented. I know he's a team guy, and listen, I know he wants to win, and so I'll leave it at that. That's what I do know.
So you sit there, you call him a stud, and obviously that's going to be that's kind of what you probably should say, that he's a stud, because you don't want to lower his trade value, even if you do want to trade him away. And dodging the question, not saying specifically that he wants to keep him or that he wants to trade him away. I think that's kind of what you expect as well, particularly if you take him at his word that he and Brad Holmes are going to get more into each individual player, including Stafford, after the press conference and over the weekend.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Like we did see previously, that's where Martha Ford was like, I love Jim Caldwell, and that's when Rod Wood, stuck his foot in his mouth, like came out there, was like, I don't know anything at all about football, but man, Matt Stafford's awesome, and we really love. It's like, wait a second, what's going on here? There was at least none of that. They had learned a little bit from, previously out there talking about personnel and what's going to happen and coaches and what. So, that's what they should do, right? They should have their price where they want it with Matt Stafford, what they might budge on it. I'm sure they're probably talking about that right now. I mean, that's the first thing that they're going to get to. Like what do we really think we could get with them? What's possible after this? What's it going to look like if we're bringing in, if we have Stafford in the situation? What happens if we just get picks from him? What happens if we go to draft route? And are we going to have to bring somebody else in besides Daniel? Would that be a bridge? So all those things that they'll talk about. Yeah. I still think that they should hold tight to getting at least a first and second rounder for Matt Stafford, or I would keep him, and I would look at drafting a quarterback there at number 7. There's 3 or 4 guys there that you could look at, but I'm holding tight on the line to get a first or second rounder for him, or I would expect him to be the opening day starter for the Lions next year.
All right, now let's get to some of that feedback.
Yeah, let's go. First, I'll look at Facebook. A lot of people, a lot of action in here. Paul's, watching Michigan hockey, but he's still checking in on the show, man. Rich, just saying nice things. Thank you. Rich, hey, it's Leslie. Is watching the show. Trade Stafford, Indy would be great. Oh yeah, as soon as we saw, was it yesterday or the day before, that Phillip Rivers announced his retirement?
Yep.
Every single person out there, ooh, Stafford to Indy. Stafford to Indy?
It's a possibility. They haven't opened. I don't think they want to sit there with Jacoby Brissett. Obviously, considering they made the playoffs, I don't know if they've lost their draft pick. I think they have their first round draft pick, but they're not going to be in position to get Lawrence, Fields, Lance, or Zach Wilson, unless one of them falls, because Aaron Rodgers fell, so you never know. Somebody could have a terrible combine or a terrible interview. They're either going to have to trade up or settle for who's there, maybe draft somebody later in the rounds. But if they want to get somebody who's ready-made to be at least a solid quarterback, Matt Stafford is there. He's not going to have a cheap contract, and they're going to have to give up draft picks as opposed to just using a draft pick. But that's a possibility. It's going to continue to be one until they decide what they're going to do with him.
Yeah, I would think for Indy, it's either going to be Carson Wentz, who, when Frank Reich was in Philadelphia, he was the offensive coordinator there. That's when he had his most success. So there's the obvious tie-in right there. I know that Philadelphia just hired the offensive coordinator from Indy today, so I don't know what that says about Carson Wentz, but I could see Wentz being in Indy, but I could also definitely see Matt Stafford. Now the question, if I don't think you're going to have to give up as much for Wentz, but you're going to have to give up. You're going to have to give up something. You might have to give up. I would rather have Matt Stafford.
Well, plus Wentz sucks.
Well, right. He's coming off a season where he got benched. And
Carson Wentz sucks.
Well, you know what? He wasn't good this year, but he hasn't sucked in the past. I mean, that's the thing. So can you get something out of him? Philly's thinking about that themselves sitting
currently,
like,
Carson Wentz sucks.
Yeah, that's how you look at it. That's
Correct.
Not how NFL people look at it.
Okay, that's fine.
I guess I'll put myself in the category of NFL people. That's not the way I look at it, Jeff.
Yeah, okay.
No, I would look.
Take him.
You might be able to get him for a song and a dance there, but get coughing up. Would I give a first and second rounder to the Lions if I was the Colts? Yeah, I would. It's like, hey, got a quarterback. He's better than Phillip Rivers.
I wouldn't. If I was the Colts, I would not give up a first and a second round pick for Stafford.
What would you give up?
Because one of the things that's become apparent is that one of the best ways to win a championship right now is with a quarterback on a rookie deal. So if it's trading up in the first round, if it's settling for a guy who falls to you in the second round, if it's trading into the back of the first round and getting your guy, I'd rather have that with $5, $6, $7 million a year going to that quarterback who could perhaps be at a Stafford or higher level in a year or two than Stafford, who's on the decline and has injuries. So what would I give up if I was the Colts to get Stafford? Maybe a second and a fourth.
Yeah, the thing is, like, you're picking in the 20s if you're the Colts right now. I mean, which quarterback you putting Kyle Trask in there? Hoping that he falls down there. Maybe he will, maybe not. I mean, that's the
Mac
kind of
Jones.
Mac Jones, Kyle Trask, and you're taking them with your first round pick, or you give that first round and a second round. And you look at the Stafford's money. I know that the Lions. I saw that Nick Baumgartner. I talked with him last week. He said $19 million that it would be in dead cap money for the Lions. When you look at the money that he's being paid there, if you're not paying over 30 for a quarterback, whatever they would have to pay him there, maybe they would get him at the end of the deal. Maybe that cap hit for the Colts isn't going to be as much.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't looked at that. I just, if you can get yourself a quarterback who in 2022 is going to be entering as a top 10 quarterback, which is a possibility if you draft the right guy. I'd rather have that for the next several years under rookie deal money than going after Stafford. I mean, what's Stafford going to be in 2022? Is he going to miss half the season with a back injury? Well, and that's his age, but I'm talking about as a player. Is he going to be healthy? Is he? I mean, we don't know what he's going to be, especially considering the back issues. There's uncertainty if you go after Stafford because of the health issues that he has, and you're probably going to have to give him a contract extension pretty soon. And there's uncertainties if you go after a rookie just because it's a rookie.
Yeah, there you go. All right, Sideshow Raj. This is on the live chat. If you're just tuning in here and watching this, saying, where are these guys reading all this feedback from? Facebook Live, Twitch, also YouTube on the live chat. That's where we're going through it right now. Sideshow Raj is first up here, who says, Kenny G, Amendola, and Marv Jones, all potential free agents. You guys think the Lions should make a push for Odell Beckham Jr.?
No, the Browns they won a playoff game without him. Odell Beckham Jr. has been injury prone ever since he got to Cleveland. No, they should not.
Well, you know what? I think it's a huge name, and he does have baggage that comes along, uh, right on his chest. I don't want to go. Uh, Depending on what the price is, thinking about Odell Beckham Jr. Look, I like being able to get premier, all-pro type players at a discount. But yeah, like I'm not selling the farm, but is that something that could be an option, for the Lions? What? But the one thing about it, Raj,
Do the Browns just want to give him away for a 5th-round pick?
I don't know of that question. That's a good question. Probably not. And the other thing about it is, from Detroit, you got to ask yourself, all right, where are they really at? Are they, like, if you're the Browns acquiring, like, you could say, what are they missing? A little firepower. That's what Odell Beckham Jr. could bring to the table. They could make a case that, look, we are a one player away from beating the Chiefs. Hell, they could make a case because they actually were one play away from beating the Chiefs to play this Sunday. Can the Lions, by acquiring Odell Beckham Jr., make the case that they're a play, a game, 2 games away, from competing? Probably not. That's not Odell Beckham Jr. is something that you want to do and go after if you feel like, man, we're just missing that one player on the outside that can be dynamic. And yeah, that's now talking it through myself, Raj. Just the Lions don't fit that right now, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Keith says, what's up? SOL, he's talking about the news conference today. The bar is high. Womp womp, abandoned ship, whatever, dude. I believe it when I see it. I think they should have hired Bieniemy. I hate the Lions, and I still hate Danny Ainge. Yeah,
Bieniemy might not get a head coaching job. Think about that. He's been the most talked about head coaching candidate over the last 12 months, and I think the only opening left is the Texans' job. And I don't think he's the front runner for that job.
Yeah, so clearly there's something more going on. So yeah, he's black. I don't know if that's the reason or not. I know that's been brought up a lot. He doesn't interview well. He wasn't a play caller.
Mm-hmm.
Neither is Dan Campbell.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about the interview process here.
Yeah.
If you sit him down, does he just sit there like everybody else has their presentation? Like, yeah, this is exactly what I'm going to do. This is what I got. Does Bieniemy just go in there and sit there with his arms folded and like, let me get this job? I don't know. I don't know, like, what's going on there.
Yeah, and none of us know, but it's bizarre that that he would be so highly thought of by his players and by folks around the league, and he could interview for all these jobs. And I think the only job where he was a finalist is the Texans' job, and I don't think he's their number one choice. But it's kind of sad.
Yeah, well, maybe we'll find out a little bit more information on just exactly what it is there. Maybe it is something in his past there that, the people when they vet him, teams when they vet him say, yeah, this is the part. It didn't, prevent the Lions, from hiring Matt, but we'll see on that. Keith saying Beckham makes way too much money, doesn't produce, and is more trouble with the diva antics. Bad character, dude. Can't stand the guy. I would rather franchise Galladay, yeah. Says Galloway.
Okay.
But
All
I
right.
know what he meant.
You ready to turn the page to the second chapter?
I am.
All right.
This is when they say it's in Chapman's wheelhouse, there is nothing that's in Chapman's wheelhouse more than the second chapter. Tomorrow is legalized gambling in the state of Michigan on your phone. You're going to be able to do whatever you want on your phone. And is this great for the state of Michigan? Is it great? It's great for Chapman. He's been looking forward to it. Just tell us, Chap, what you're thinking about less than 24 hours away from this launching. You've been really into it.
I know it's hard to see, but here on my phone, you can see that I've got all my sports betting apps ready. Got FanDuel in the corner. Just below that, you got DraftKings. Just below that, you got MGM Grand. What is that one? Got Bet Rivers, got PointsBet, and Barstool Sportsbook. I've got all 6 of those apps on my phone ready to go. I'm probably only going to use 5 of those apps over the weekend. And the reason is because when you look at Barstool, you look at BetRivers, MGM, FanDuel, and DraftKings, they're all giving you free betting money. So like if you're one of those people out there that says, I don't know about sports betting, I'm not into gambling, but you're sitting there waiting like, when is Joe Biden going to give me that stimulus check? When is he going to negotiate with Congress on that stimulus check? Because he's been talking about getting it. Now he's in office. Well, guess what? You don't have to wait for the stimulus check. The stimulus check is on your phone. You place the bets. There are, I calculated it out. If you look at the 5 companies that I just mentioned, there are $510. Is it $510? I wrote it down. No, $560 in free gambling money that you could get this weekend. 560, 310 of those are free sports betting dollars. So if you hit on those, all of a sudden you got yourself a stimulus check. But when it comes to just being able to bet with your phone, I think this is going to be incredibly impactful and a game changer because not everybody lives close to a Native American casino or close to downtown Detroit. I mean, you live in Dexter outside of Ann Arbor. The closest casinos to you are the 3 in downtown Detroit, and it takes you close to an hour to get there. If you're not going there, it's probably Firekeepers, which is over an hour for you to get there too. So if you want to place a bet on a sport, even if you're closer than Dennis, you live in, let's say, Clinton Township, or you live in Livonia, and perhaps you work there too. If you want to place a bet on a Pistons or a Red Wings Thursday night game and you got a family or something like that, you're not going to leave work at 5:30, drive all the way downtown unless you're going to put a heck of a lot of money on the game and then drive all the way back. But you can sit back on your couch and at 6:45 as you're finishing dinner, getting ready for the game, boop, 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 you bet on the game. So I think it's going to be great from that standpoint. It makes things a heck of a lot easier. If you're new to sports betting, having the ability to bet for free is great. And I think that anybody who's ever participated in sports betting knows putting as little as $5 on a game changes how much you care about a game so much. Like I was looking tonight, just for an example, I don't care one bit about Tennessee Tech and Austin Peay. I don't know a single player. I don't know the names of the coaches. I don't know if either team is going to be making the tournament this year. But I could say, you know what? After looking at a couple of numbers, Austin Peay should be more than an 11.5 point favorite tonight. I'll put $5 on them. And guess what? Suddenly I care. Suddenly I'm going to see if CBS Sports Network or the Austin Peay website is televising the game, and I become the biggest Austin Peay fan in the world because I have $5 on it. And if you're a sports fan, it's great to watch games, but if you have a vested interest in it, it makes it more fun. Obviously, if you're a fan of Michigan basketball like you are, then you're going to watch the game and you're going to care no matter what. But there's a Penn State game on right now that you probably don't care about. If you put $5 on Penn State, all of a sudden you're watching to the very end to see if they cover, to see if they win, to see if that over-under hits. And the ability to do that, to enhance your sports viewing experience with your phone, I think is going to be great for all sports fans that choose to take advantage of this in the state of Michigan.
Yeah, I would bet Rutgers if I was going to bet that game, considering Penn State was off for 17 days and now they're playing like 4 or 5 games inside of 2 weeks.
Penn State sucks. So.
Well, it's because how many games they have to play and having the dead legs, and I would bet against them. But now I hear all of that. I'm interested in the free money part. Like I know that on FanDuel before, just with fantasy football, they're offering free money, but you had to put your deposit in, and then you only could bet on certain. You could only get into certain tournaments that had 100,000 people in there, which gives you such a small chance to win. I'll be interested. Like if you just have free money and you're able to bet on these sites and you have 50, at what point, if you're just putting $5 on the game, you imagine you would hit on some of those. Can you just cash out? And
I think you might have to put. I know for one of the sports betting apps, I think it might be DraftKings. They give you a $100 bet, so you'd have to put $100 on one particular bet as opposed to breaking it up. I don't know if that's the case with the other ones though.
So if I put 100 on Michigan tomorrow over Purdue when it's legal, I win that. I can collect my money.
Yeah,
with their free money.
Yeah, you'd be able to collect your winnings, but you wouldn't be able to collect the 100 as well. So if you bet 100 and it's on the point spread, you'd be able to collect your $91.91 or whatever.
Yeah, interesting. So yeah, I mean, if you could really, if that
That's
is
a
actually
stimulus.
true, if that is actually true, I would definitely look into that. You get one game, you might be able to win $90. If it comes up, it's kind of a coin flip. So we'll see if there's any kind of nuance to that. But yeah, I mean, I look forward going down. Like I haven't been. Well, it's not true. I go to the casino. And then maybe it's been 2 years, but yeah, usually once, maybe twice a year over the last 5 years. And now with the sports books, the way they look, I could see, going down once or, twice a year. And I like poker, and so I'll be checking out and seeing what the poker rooms look like when it comes down to that. And yeah, I just, you know how gambling is, and there's one part about getting in your car, driving all the way down there, spending a night where you're in the casino and you're betting. Now, man, you can just sit there right from your chair, and you can bet on everything all day. We know in a month or two there's going to be a lot of stories on Channel 7. Brian Chapman.
Please.
Got involved in all this. Was betting. Look at the history. Look at this. He was betting all these games, and now he's out on the street.
Or I'm on the street looking for mansions.
Yeah. I would put a bet down on which one of those stories would actually come out. So yeah, it's such a highly addictive thing, and now that you can do it just like they're right there on your phone. But the weird part is I play Texas Hold'em on my phone to begin with, but it's nothing. I mean, I play for money, but they give it to me, so I'm not winning or losing anything, and I enjoy it, man. Being able to get in there and play for a little bit of money is going to be pretty wild, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think that when it comes to sports betting or any other type of betting at the casino or on your phone, it's all about being responsible, and I think that's one thing that everybody should take from this, whether you choose to bet on a regular basis or you choose to bet every once in a while. You have to be responsible. Like when I go to the casino, I take my money out of the ATM before I go, and then I play that money, and I don't use the ATMs at the casino in case I lose my money to take out more. If you're going to be engaged in mobile betting, then I think it makes sense to set yourself a budget. Like maybe you just want to spend $20 a week, and after you've lost your $20, don't touch that. Don't deposit again for another 7 days, and hopefully you won't have to deposit ever again. But just don't go get to you lose your $20 in one day and then put it back in the next day if you can't afford to do so. I think that's very important. But the one thing I am concerned about is that it's not just sports betting that is legalized on your phone. That's all that I plan to do with my phone, outside of the additional free bets, because you are getting like free $50 bets for the casino on FanDuel and 100 on DraftKings, 100 in free bets with MGM. I am concerned about people using their phone to bet on slot machines, because when you think about sports betting, I think a lot of folks are just going to place their bets for the day and then that's it. Online poker is people have been doing that for a long time. So if you have online poker on your phone, I'm okay with that. But when you start talking about blackjack on your phone, baccarat, roulette, and then slots, like we've all been to the casino and seen what I label as slot zombies, where they're not the people that are there going out there for a fun time. They're sitting there like a zombie. Their eyes are glazed over and they're just doing this. They could win, the progressive jackpot for $1,100 on a penny slot, and all the lights and the sounds are going off, and everybody's like, "Ooh, wow, look at this person!" And because you're a slot zombie, you're just staring like this, like Adam Gase with his googly eyes. And then once it ends, you're not celebrating and dancing. You just go right back to that. Those people are addicts, and if they have the ability to not only to not go down to the casino to do that, but they can just sit there on their phone. You don't even have to look at your phone. You can just sit there, watch TV, and press the button on your phone time after time after time, and then you look down like, oh, I lost $500. That part does concern me, that they allowed slot machines to be legalized on your phone.
It's understandable. I know what you're talking about, the slot people. I don't smoke, but I have sat there at the slot machine like this, Here it is. You don't even have to pull the thing.
Yeah.
Just hit the button. Hit the button.
Those people look really sad to me.
Hit the button, or if you have a cigarette, get in there, hit the button.
Yeah. Like when you're betting on sports, you don't just, bet. You go into the casino. If it's not, on the mobile device, you walk up to the window or the kiosk and you hand them the money. And then guess what? For the next 3 hours, you sit there and you cheer on your bets. Maybe you can high five if it's not, in a pandemic. The guy next to you had the same bet and you can talk to other people about what's going on. But it's not just sitting there like a glazed over zombie. Maybe you lose and that kind of sucks. But one of the great things about sports betting, whether it's mobile or otherwise, is that, it's a form of entertainment, whether you win or you lose. A lot of people say, in terms of gambling overall, oh, you're just throwing your money away. But if you're investing your time, your $50 into watching a game, I don't see how that's any different than going to a bar and blowing $50 or $100 on a tab, or spending $75 or $100 at a concert if you're having fun. And there's absolutely no way that you could go to a bar or a concert and leave afterwards after having spent $150 with an extra $300 in your pocket. But you could do that with sports betting. As long as you do it responsibly, you could lose money and still have a good time.
Those people are still going to be going to the bar and the concert, and they're going to be betting while they're in there.
While they're drunk.
Yeah, you kidding me? Let's go. They're live betting, doing it all. Yeah. I think that when it comes down to betting, I'll do it next year on the NFL. I'll see how long this waits. I'm ready to keep the sanctimony of Saturdays. Like I never gamble on college football. Like I haven't had that. Like when you're talking about, go ahead and put $1.520 on a game, and suddenly, Virginia Tech, against Louisville's like the Super Bowl or something. I haven't had to do that. I still like watching college football. But I've got fantasy going. I got daily fantasy on Sunday. Could I see now expanding that to actually betting on the games, possibly coming up next year? The feedback coming in on Facebook still about trading Matt Stafford.
Okay.
And it comes through. Rich wants to know about Deshaun Watson. He's still young, and if we traded Stafford to Indy, we would have more picks to trade with. Paul saying Watson would be hard to acquire. How costly do you think it could go? Rich saying Stafford could go to Houston also. I don't think Watson wants to be in Houston anymore. All right, your thoughts on the possibility. We've seen a few different trade proposals on what actually it would take if you even would get Houston listening. I don't know, like it's Stafford, the number 7 overall pick this year, and a first and second rounder after that. So
that's assuming they want Matt Stafford. I mean, you would have to.
Well, that's right. That's right.
And
I've also seen the Jets, Sam Darnold, their number 2 overall pick, a number 1 next year, and a number 2. So I've seen a couple different proposals. I don't know if you like the Jets one better.
For Deshaun, for Deshaun, I think it starts with 2 first-round picks, and you work from there. After you get the 2 first-round picks out of the way, the first-round pick this year and next year, or if there's a team out there that has 2 first-round picks in 2021, then you get those off the table and you say, all right, we're giving you the first 2. We're giving you 2 first-round picks. What else do you want? Is it a player? Is it another first-round pick? Is it a second, a third, a couple of fourths, whatever? But you have to start the bidding when it comes to Deshaun Watson at 2 first-round picks. If I'm the Lions, I'm not giving up 2 first-round picks. They're not that close. I mean, he's young. He's a top 5 or 6 quarterback in the league. But if he's having trouble with a dysfunctional organization right now, why bring him to a dysfunctional organization in Detroit? So
yeah, well, if you look at the proposals, like for me, I think Stafford's were the first and second round pick. So under these scenarios that are going out, you're talking about trading with Stafford if he's worth a first and second round pick, 3 1s and 2 2s for Deshaun Watson.
That's a lot.
Now, there's the part about it doesn't matter what you pay if you get the quarterback right, but that applies to the draft, like you were talking about earlier. You get them at a price where you're not paying somebody $35-40 million a year. I mean, that's what Deshaun Watson's making. You don't want to clear every asset that you have out for the foreseeable future, bring in Deshaun Watson, and you're like, okay, who's he throwing the ball to? What else? Our defense blows. Like it would just be Houston 2.0 up here in Detroit. So there's no way Detroit should trade for Deshaun Watson. It's too costly for the salary he's making. It's too costly in the picks. And then when he gets here, it's not putting you over the top. Now, if you are the Colts, that would be another. With the Colts want to surrender a bunch of draft picks. The Colts were just in the playoffs this year.
They're close.
Feel like they are. Now, that's one that you would consider giving a treasure trove of picks over to Houston. The Dolphins, that's the one where, because the Dolphins have so many picks and they have Tua, where they're thinking about that. But are the Dolphins that close? They're closer than the Lions. It's weird to say, but they are.
A lot of teams are closer than the Lions. So
that is the truest statement of the night.
By the way, we had a couple of Twitter polls we wanted to get to. One was regarding Dan Campbell and whether or not he won the press conference. There's still an opportunity for you to vote on that. And as of right now, 78.8% say that Dan Campbell, despite sounding like a cannibal, saying we're going to bite a kneecap off, won the press conference. Only 21.2% say he sounded crazy. And when it comes to sports betting, hashtag let us bet from home in Michigan beginning tomorrow, 40% say they plan to bet 4 to 7 days per week. 30% say they'll only bet in big games. 26% say they will bet 1 to 3 days per week. And 4% say they will only bet at the casinos.
Good polls. All right, more from the live chats that are rolling in here. Keith says, I want $6,000. I think this means to say he won $6,000 at Greektown in 2019 and didn't get a chance to go last year, which was disappointing. But I will check out the casino slots on the app. And there's somebody looking for the slots. He said he's just not a big sports game bettor, fantasy only.
Well, one of the things that you can do. Well, one of the things you can do with sports betting is not just bet on games. You can bet, for instance, I think the Bucks are playing the Lakers tonight. You can bet on the over/under for how many points LeBron scores. So that's kind of like fantasy.
Oh yeah, and they have straight up fantasy on those too that you can bet on, no question. I would suggest going through. I did this with the NBA. I thought maybe they would throw me a few wins and then kind of get me hooked to get in there. I went to the NBA where you put the lineup out, and you jump in with 10 or 15. There's all kinds of different tournaments you get in there. I did that I did it at least 20 times. I never once even came close.
Yeah, I'm terrible at that.
It gives you a real life, if you were betting, you can get in there and you can actually do it, but you're not betting any money to see how you would do. Of course, you get in there the first time, you feel like, hey, man, you won. You would have won $2,500, then you never win again. All right, Sideshow Raj says the slot zombie vaccine, and he has a syringe emoji there. We've had slots long enough where most people know better unless you get addicted. I'm super late. Did the draft trade talk just start? That's from K Salty. Well, we talked about that in the first chapter. Here's the thing, Kay, you can always go back as soon as this show ends, and you can start watching it from the beginning here. So, you're good that way. Or later on, chap, you can listen to the podcast. That usually hits at on my phone. I notice it's there by usually 11 o'clock.
That's correct. Listen to whatever part you want.
K Salty adding here, LOL, when Dan Campbell said he talked to Sheila, she said she wants to win but won't sell her soul to win. That told me they'll never pay the high price for high talent no matter what. MAT saying Odell would never want to go to the Lions. You're probably right about that. I didn't think he ever wanted to go to the Browns either, but so, that's the part there. We've been over Odell Beckham. Sheila did say that she didn't want to sell her soul. Is that coming down to Kareem Hunt, where the Browns, were signing him, or you're taking guys with character issues? So the Lions are going to stay on this high moral ground when it comes to the picking players with rap sheets. They're going to stay away from that. Maybe that's what they were talking about.
Yeah, well, we'll see when they start making some choices. All right, let's turn the page to the third chapter, and that will take us to the NFL. We're into Conference Championship Sunday in a couple of days. It's kind of sad because 3 weeks ago we had 3 games on Saturday, 3 on Sunday. Last week we had 2 each day, and this week no games on Saturday, just as we get sports betting on your phone. But we have 2 on Sunday, and you got the NFC Championship game, the Buccaneers traveling to the Packers. AFC, you've got the Chiefs hosting the Bills. The big key for that AFC Championship game is going to be availability. Is Patrick Mahomes going to play? And from what I saw today, he practiced with a helmet on, so that suggests that he's going to play. If the favorites win, then it's going to be a State Farm Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers and the Rodgers rate versus Patrick Mahomes and the Patrick Price. Only the Buccaneers and Bills can prevent a State Farm Super Bowl. Dennis, starting with the NFC Championship game, who do you like between the Packers and Buccaneers?
I watched this game the first time around. The Packers dominated that first quarter. They looked so good. And then the Bucs started pouring it on with their defense, sacking Aaron Rodgers. He threw some picks, and then they scored 38 unanswered. And Tampa Bay played their best game of the year. Tampa Bay is really weird. You watch them this year, some of the games, Brady looks like, he's 157 years old, should never play again. The Bucs look like they can't do anything, and they lose these games handily. They look terrible. They don't even look like a playoff team. Other games, they look great. I mean, they're so up and down. Very hard team, to try to figure out. Now that you're in the playoffs, you think, this is Tom Brady's time. Tom Brady's really had a break here. The Washington football team, how the Lions could have beat them, and a rubbery-armed Drew Brees throwing picks left and right over there.
Yeah.
He's really had a break to get to this point right here. It really comes down to that defensive front for Tampa Bay. And if they are going to be able to get to Aaron Rodgers, no David Bakhtiari, the best left tackle in the league there for Green Bay, but they were able to hold up pretty good last week. And, man, Devontae Adams is awesome. Aaron Jones is a great running back. I'll say great. I think last year I was ready to say it was his team, not Aaron Rodgers' team. But, man, Aaron Rodgers, the MVP right here. I have a hard time getting away from Green Bay, being at home. The way they're playing right now, the way Rodgers just has it going with Adams and also Jones, it all points to Green Bay in a rout to me. One thing that's encouraging for Lion fans, both the head coach of the Packers, Matt LaFleur, and the head coach of the Bills, you know what they have in common with Dan Campbell?
The Packers and the Bills.
First-time head coaches when they hired him. First-time head coaches.
Yeah. Matt LaFleur, back-to-back 13-win seasons. That's really impressive.
Yeah, McDermott's done a nice job, obviously, there for the Bills as well.
Yeah. I mean, look, I agree with you. This NFC Championship is easy on paper. Like, I'm stunned. Like, earlier today, I was checking what was the point spread, and it was either Packers by 3 or Packers by 3.5, and it just didn't
Seems
make
low.
sense.
Seems
Yes.
low.
Yeah, so like when I'm thinking about my free bet, I might put all $100 on the Packers to cover. And as a matter of fact, for those of you that are new to sports betting, at some sports books, they allow you to use alternative spreads. So you could say, well, I think the Packers are going to win this game by 2 touchdowns. And if you want to be a little bit safe, say, all right, I'll pick Packers minus 9.5 points. And instead of it being a minus 110, it might be like a plus 150. So your $100 bet turns into a $150 profit. But the Packers have been the best team in the NFL for the last couple of months. It was the Chiefs to start the year, but even though the Chiefs won down the stretch outside of that last game against the Chargers where they didn't try, the Packers have been a heck of a lot more dominant. You look at the Buccaneers, you're right. They have been lucky with who they played. And then let's also look at the environments. Tampa Bay played Washington outside, and it was 48 degrees a couple of weeks ago. Last week, obviously, they played in a dome. Let's keep on going even further back. They played their last game of the season in a dome. I'm sorry, not in a dome, but in Florida against Atlanta. Then before that, in a dome against the Lions. Then before that, in a dome against Atlanta. Then before that, at home in Florida against Minnesota. Then home against Kansas City. Then home against Los Angeles. Outside of Washington, every Tampa Bay game has either been in a dome or in Florida, and now they're going to Green Bay, where the high is going to be 29 degrees on Sunday. I know Tom Brady has played in a lot of snowy games, but he hasn't been playing in snowy games recently. He's been in climate controlled environments or in freaking Florida. And on top of that, you mentioned Aaron Jones and how great he's been for the Packers, but they've got a three-headed rushing attack that gave them 188 yards against the Rams. Obviously, they only had their star defensive lineman for half of the game, Aaron Donald, but 188 yards rushing when you have Aaron Rodgers, that's like impossible to stop. And I get that $UH is on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but they're not going to be able to stop an Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams passing attack that also has three strong running backs. This is easy. I would pick the Packers by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I don't know about 2 touchdowns, but I'm with you on that. I like them by double digits, so we're on the same page there. The other factor is that the crowd as well, they allowed them at Lambeau last week more than I thought that they would, and we know that Big Gretch is opening things up February 1st for bars and restaurants. At least that's the plan.
Yeah, there wasn't much social distancing at Lambeau Field. I didn't see much.
No, there wasn't, but they were loud, and that factors in right now all season long. Well, we don't know how much of the crowd. It factors in, and it factors in at Arrowhead as well, where they've had fans there the whole time, and they've been getting pretty cozy. You already mentioned it. I think if there was going to be somehow, some way that Patrick Mahomes was going to be on that field, I watched that. It was a strange concussion, anyways, because clearly he was like, out on his feet, and he had to get helped up, so something was going on there. But if you look at the 4 or 5 replays from all the different angles, it never really looked like he hit his head. So I don't know what was going on there, but you're right. He looks like he's trending towards playing. I'm surprised that this number is only 3 either as well. Maybe something's going on with the uncertainty with Mahomes there. The first time that these two teams played, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, we don't know. He didn't play last week for the Chiefs against the Browns, but he ran for 161 yards in the first meeting. The Bills were totally, you got to pick your poison. If you're going to pick your poison, you're going to try to keep your defensive backs as far back, so Tyreek Hill's not taking the top off of the defense and Kelsey's not running free down the seam. I think that's what you have to do, and then you have to hope that you're just going to be able to shoot those gaps and that your guys up front are going to be able to make the tackles. But I think that they'll come up with a similar game plan here. But, man, it's just Mahomes. But, the one part about the number is that the Chiefs haven't won a game by more than 6 points since Week 8. So they've been playing a lot of tight games. However, you don't need to win by 6. You only need to win by 4. So I still feel like, this number seems low. And I love the Chiefs here, too. Love the Packers, love the Chiefs. Hard part about gambling here is I don't want to root for the Packers at all. I want to see Tom Brady and the Bucs win. I just don't think they're going to do it. And it's the same thing here. I would like to see the Bills. Like, if I could just pick how I wanted it to come through, I would pick Bills and Bucs. That would be a fine Super Bowl for me, and it's not going to hurt anything. I would like to see that. I don't need to see Rodgers and Mahomes. I want to see Josh Allen. I want to see Tom Brady. But if I'm betting it, I love the Chiefs and I love the Packers.
Mm-hmm. And if you're not all that convinced with the point spread, you could obviously go with the money line. But I think this game is actually going to be more interesting. I think that the Bills do have the weapons to hang with the Chiefs, particularly because the Chiefs don't have that great of a defense and because they haven't been blowing teams out. And the question is, can the Bills hang with the Chiefs? Can the Bills put up 30 to 35 points to keep the game close? And I think they can. Are they going to is another question. Are they going to be able to make the plays late in the game like we know the Chiefs can to get that win? I don't know. I like the Chiefs having a coaching edge there and obviously having the home field advantage edge as well. So I like the Chiefs to win by a touchdown.
Well, there you go. You got them covering. Everybody, at least what I'm looking at right now, you could type in on the live chat if you disagree, but the feedback that's coming in here has, now that I say that, it's changing up. K. Salty, Bills go to the Super Bowl, he says. M-A-T. Green Bay is going to beat Tampa with relative ease. Buffalo is going to edge the Chiefs, so there's 2 Bills. Nobody will beat Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay past the second week of January. Sorry, I love Brady, but no, go blue. Sideshow Raj. It's a good point here. No team has ever played at their home stadium in the Super Bowl. You give me the pack and the points. Of course, Super Bowl being played in Super Bowl 55. Yeah, so that would be what an advantage. Tom Brady has such an advantage. He wins one game, and then he would get home field advantage for the Super Bowl. Wow.
Not going to happen.
One more. I think the Bills game is going to be the one to watch. They look the most ready and hungry to me. K. Salty.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the game I'm more interested in too. I mean, I'll be interested in both because I probably am going to put one of my free bets on the Packers because that seems like easy money.
You're going to be betting the halftime line. You're going to be You're going to be jumping on something like you'll be looking. Devontae Adams only over 40 yards in the first half. I'm bet. Get my free money on that one. Aaron Jones
free
over
money.
100 yards plus 210. I'm jumping in. Josh Allen rushing yards only 25 yards. It's got to be higher than that.
I would assume so too. All right, let's.
Chad might not be here Tuesday. He's going to bet all his money. Going to go to a.
My goal is to never have to make a deposit. Never have to make a deposit.
You'll be, dude. You'll be. You better pulling out that credit card and making a deposit by Sunday night.
No,
especially the way you're going. I've seen some of your tweets. I bet the Bucs on the money line. I got the 76ers minus 7.5. I'm taking the Blue Jackets plus a goal and a half. You got 5-6 bets a night.
Well, but a lot of times I'm not betting them, and and if I am, it's a small amount. I'm not betting enough.
Stay away from those parlays.
Well, if you're going to do a parlay, it makes sense to bet a smaller amount. But all right, let's turn the page to the fourth chapter before we get all excited about me winning Powerball types of jackpots at the casino.
The Powerball's up, by the way. This is your show, chap. As much as the online gambling starting tomorrow is right in your wheelhouse, so is this UFC 257 going off overseas on the weekend. Conor McGregor on the card. It's your sport. What do you think of 257? And then who do you want to see coming up in UFC? Who do you want to see battle?
I thought you watched UFC as well.
I do a little bit, but I can't say that I'm sitting over here like. You want me to go first? I want to see Khabib. He's undefeated. I want to see him take on McGregor.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I want to see.
Well, look, I'm pretty excited about the fight this weekend. I'm gonna have to find a way to watch it either via ESPN Plus or at the casino. It's a rematch from 2014 when McGregor won in less than 2 minutes. But both of these fighters, it's interesting, they fought once in 2020 and they both won. And both of these fighters in their previous fight before that lost to Khabib Nurmagomedov. And Khabib is one of the best fighters of all time. Last summer, after he fought, he announced his retirement in the octagon. Now, as far as the fight this weekend between Dustin Poirier and McGregor, I used to be a huge Conor McGregor fan, and he is the biggest name in the sport. But the last couple of years, I've soured on him, and a lot of UFC fans have, because he's turned into an international criminal and a jerk. He's getting, all that money is getting to his head, all that success is getting to his head. He screw around with boxing, and I get it because he made like $100 million, but he hasn't been doing a whole lot of UFC fighting lately. He's been spending more time, battling legal cases. He had a legal case pop up this week where he allegedly hit a woman. He broke somebody's phone in Miami. He had the big one in Brooklyn a couple of years ago where he threw a dolly through a bus of UFC fighters, and guess who was on that bus among other fighters? Khabib Nurmagomedov, and that is part of what stems from their rivalry. But I was looking at his fight record, and he fought twice during the Donald Trump administration in the UFC. Think about that. The Trump administration just ended yesterday, and Conor McGregor fought twice during that span. Meanwhile, Dustin Poirier fought 8 times during the Trump administration, only lost 1 time, and that was to Khabib last year. He won a belt and lost a belt in 2019. When I was thinking about this fight, my first thought was, well, McGregor's going to win because the UFC wants him to win. Last year, they scheduled a cupcake fight for him against washed-up Donald Cerrone, and he won that. but Dustin Poirier is not a cupcake. Given the types of fighters that he's beaten, and the only loss being to Khabib, and so I look at the odds and I say, wow, this Dustin Poirier has been fighting more often, and he's a plus 250 underdog. There's a heck of a lot of value there. I think that not only am I hoping that Poirier wins, but I think he'll win.
You know, the one thing about the UFC, you know, you mentioned it right there. The best thing about it also ends up being the worst thing about it, because it's real. I don't think they're setting things up, and you know, some guys, you know, they duck guys and, you know, take easier fights here, but not to the extent that boxing does to set things up. Man, if the UFC could rig a couple of these and get these gigantic matchups, but you know, they'll go in there. Next thing you know, the biggest name, he'll be in submission and he's out. Like, you see it, like it's real, and that hurts them, because some of these guys that they can promote, and you can have bigger fights, and you can get more recognition if you could pick who you wanted to actually go through, and ended up getting them to the big fights. But you just never know, and that's you know, the best and worst thing about it. You know what? I think that Khabib is the one that we want to see down the line here, and you know, that's the one that I'll be looking forward to. You know, I'm intrigued there. So the casino, I could roll down on Saturday at 9:00, and they're going to have the fight. Do I got to pay?
No, there's no cover. I know
no
MGM allows you to see it for free. They've been doing that for years. I believe that Motor City / FanDuel does as well. I'm not sure about Barstool, but yeah, you can
but we
watch
don't
it.
have the sports books open though, do we?
No, the sports books are open. They have limited seating. The thing about going to the sports book now, particularly if you're going to go on Sunday for the NFL games or Saturday for the UFC games, is because of the pandemic, they have a capacity. I think it's a 15% capacity, and they do enforce it, because a couple of months ago, I went there with a friend, and I got in, and she could not get in, so she had to circle back around for like 10 or 15 minutes before some people could leave, and then she could come in. But
was that stripper from Washington that you took over there?
No, it was not a stripper from Washington. It's actually a girl from Penn State.
That's an inside joke. Like, people are watching, say, "What are you talking about, strippers in Chapman?" And it goes back to the
watch some of our previous shows. Yes.
Yeah, it's a joke. It's a total joke.
But
he could take strippers down there, but
the strippers might be coming back, because on February 1st the strip clubs are going to reopen. But
Chapman gets the numbers and he just crumbles them out and throws them in the back seat. I don't know, throws them out the window. Hopefully he's not throwing them out the window. He's throwing them in the trash. So.
Yeah. Well, but the bottom line is they do strictly enforce the capacity limit. So, you know, it's a heck of a lot of fun to be at the sports book for those things. But, you know, for the most part, I have been just placing my bet and leaving. If I could get there early enough, then perhaps I would stay, but otherwise I might try to get it on ESPN Plus to watch the fight. In terms of Khabib, because he retired, there's a lot of questions of whether or not he's going to unretire, because obviously Conor McGregor retired last year, but nobody believed him. Khabib seems more determined to retire. Here is what Dana White said on ESPN before last Saturday's UFC fight about whether Khabib could unretire when he had his conversation with Khabib over the weekend.
So yesterday, speaking of hanging on every word, was your anticipated sit-down with Khabib Nurmagomedov. I saw that door close like 50 times, right? You were to sit down with him to talk about his fighting future. What can you tell us about that meeting?
Well, like I said, I thought that, you know, in his last fight, his father had passed away.
Right.
He'd been through a lot, been away from his family during that time, got injured while he was training, and I thought that he made an emotional decision. There was no reason to make a hasty decision like that then. We didn't have to. I talked to him, I told him to take his time. We would get together later on. Last night we did. And basically, the way that he feels right now is he's accomplished everything he's wanted to, he set out to accomplish. He thought that Oliveira looked really good in his last fight against Tony Ferguson. So next Saturday,
right,
we got the McGregor-Poirier fight and Chandler and Hooker on
right
there. So his words to me were, I'm gonna watch this fight. He said I would never tie up the division.
Okay.
I would never tie up the division, hold the belt, and keep the belt away from anybody else. these guys do something spectacular. Show me something spectacular.
Wow.
And make me want to come back and fight. So I have the feeling that if somebody delivers, it could be on the co-main event or the main event.
Right.
And like I said, I thought Oliveira looked good. So a lot of good fights. 2 fights coming up. Oliveira looked great. If he can, these guys can do something special, Khabib will fight them.
All right, so it appears.
So there's a chance. You're saying there's a chance is what Khabib is saying, or at least that's what Dana White is saying, Khabib said. And it's not just the possibility of fighting Conor McGregor again. It's 4 possibilities. The winner of McGregor versus Poirier, and, of course, the winner of the co-main event. I wouldn't hold my breath. I think he's going to stay retired. But if he unretires and it's against McGregor or anybody else, I'd be very interested to see that fight.
Yeah, I would put my money on him on retiring. Kay Salty says, Diaz McGregor 3. I need that. Roger says, the greatest boxer of all time versus the greatest UFC fighter of all time, Mayweather versus Khabib. Let's go. That would be nice, but the thing is, if they were in the octagon, Khabib would knock him out within 30 seconds.
Or
and if
submit
they
him.
boxed, and if they boxed, I think that Mayweather would get on his bike and run away from him, but then then he would use his defensive style and he would beat him just like he did McGregor.
Yeah, those fights aren't competitive if you're going to be just going into somebody else's home field for the most part. I mean, you know who's going to win. You know it's not going to be close.
Yeah.
What I'm interested in seeing later this year, I believe it's in March. On March 17th, you're going to have the heavyweight championship between Stipe Miocic and Francis Ngannou. Francis Ngannou, of course, was a winner when the UFC was in Detroit. The winner of that fight is scheduled to face John Jones as he makes his heavyweight debut for the heavyweight championship. So I hate John Jones because, like Conor McGregor, he's a criminal. He likes to drink and drive and all that other stuff. But I would love to see Ngannou or Stipe Miocic beat the crap out of John Jones as he tries to bulk up.
Yeah, there you go. Sorry, I had to send a text. Sideshow Raj saying, what do you think of this parlay, chap? McGregor on 2 of my parlays with my NFL picks, always spectacular when he fights. So you go McGregor, Packers, Chiefs.
The thing about that is, once again, in the octagon, McGregor fought twice during the Trump administration. And, the last fight that he had a year ago was against a washed-up Donald Cerrone. If the odds were closer to -110, if it was closer to a pick'em, then I would be more inclined to bet on McGregor. But when you see that he's at like -325 as a favorite, when he's barely been fighting and he's been getting in trouble, and Poirier he fought 8 times during the Trump administration and went 6-1-1. His only loss to Khabib, and it's at +250, I believe. That just seems like a much better value.
Yeah, well, I wonder what the number would be if it was just McGregor to win, Packers to win, Chiefs to win, take the point spreads out, and but you had to have all 3 on a parlay. What kind of money you're going to get? What kind of odds you're going to get on that?
Yeah, like the NFL games don't concern me. It's I think that picking the fight is close to a 50-50. I mean, if it's close to a 50-50, it should be -110. And I think that the reason that it's not close to a 50-50 is because who's the name when you think of the UFC? Conor McGregor.
And those prices are going to be inflated a little bit because everybody's going to bet them.
Yeah. All right, let's turn the page to the 5th chapter, and that, of course, takes us to the major wager, where we obviously have the opportunity now to bet legally on your phones beginning tomorrow at noon. Dennis, remind us what you bet on Tuesday and what you're thinking about for this weekend.
I bet the Packers on Tuesday, and it was only -3. I looked today; it was -3.5. But I'm going to the other side, the AFC game, and I'm picking the Chiefs. I think this is easy money. I want the Bills, but I'm going to bet the Chiefs. Now, this is where it gets down to where your loyalty. It's always to your pocketbook and everything else. Like I really, I feel strongly that it's going to be the Packers and the Chiefs, and then I want to root for the Bucs and the Bills. So I'm not going to bet this game with my free money that I'm going to check to see if I get from DraftKings tomorrow. I'm not going to be betting that because then I know I am going to be pulled. I've never pulled for the Packers in my life, so I'm not betting on the Packers. I just think they're going to win.
Okay,
So
that's
my
your
take.
advice, but you're just not going to take it.
Right. If somebody's out there saying, man, I was really wondering where to bet, man, 50 loves the Packers, loves the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
Dial it up. Let's go.
I'm going to give you guys one bet for each of the next 3 days. I'm not going to do anything tonight because you can't bet legally unless you go to the casino. But tomorrow, Red Wings, Blackhawks. Blackhawks have given up 20 goals in 4 games. That means they've given up exactly 5 goals in every game. The over-under in the Red Wings Blackhawks game is set at 6. I'm going to take the over on 6 goals. And if the number drops down to 5.5, yeah, you really want to jump all over that. Saturday, like I said, Dustin Poirier just seems like great value, plus 250. He's been fighting. McGregor hasn't been fighting. There's concerns about whether McGregor has the lung capacity and the endurance to go for a 5-round fight. So I like Poirier there, especially because it's plus 250 on him to win. And there's not like a point spread or anything like that when it comes to MMA. And then Sunday, like I said, the Packers are going to blow away the Buccaneers. 3.5 point spread. That's a no-brainer. Take the Packers to cover. And if you're really aggressive, go with an alternative spread. Maybe 6.5, 9.5, because this is not going to be a close game.
All sounds pretty reasonable to me. Everybody, make sure you tune in on Tuesday. Will Chapman be here? Will he be out on the street? Will he even have his cell phone? Will he have his shirt on his back? We'll check in on all that with Legalized Gambling. I'm guessing, Tuesday he's got enough. Thursday might be the real show, but we'll also have the Super Bowl participants, so we'll get into all of that. Thanks for watching. 5th chapter for Brian Chapman. I'm Dennis Fithian. So long.
He represents the mitten by way of Penn State. When Chapman gets to talking sports, the people can't wait. He represents the mitten. Be a true EMU, but cut Dennis in the fall, and his veins bleeding blue. They got respect around the state. When that light turns red, so don't sleep on these dudes. Just invite your friends to cut your nap short and tip your cap for and sit back for the 5th chapter. Brian Chapman. Dennis Fithian. When they open their mouths, they spit in the facts, bro. This ain't even optional, man. You just have to tune into YouTube to watch the broadcast or download it to your phone to peep the podcast. They mix laughter, they get after. It's all captured in the 5th chapter.